What does bold mean for you?
You need to want to work in the Pareto of doing bold, but it's not so crazy that you will give up your life or you'll do something silly, right? One of the books which I highly recommend, I think I may have mentioned to you about this thing, is a book called Peak by Anand Rangarajan.
Where is AI really right now? Like where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I get exposed to software engineering a lot, and there it is getting disrupted every day.
You're in the belly of DeepMind. So how do you trust people?
Yeah.
Yet verify?
One, you need to create an environment with the right people and the right processes. At the core of all of these is learning.
Today's second episode of ABC. I don't know, many of you know what ABC stands for, Angel Bold Conversations. I am quite excited today, and you see me even happier than usual in this surrounding because I have a very good friend here with me. We have spent lots and lots of time together. Anand is a site lead for Google Bangalore and a VP engineering in Google DeepMind. He joined Google in California in 2008 and worked in Gmail ads and YouTube in Mountain View before moving to Bangalore in 2013. He has led teams in enterprise, search, and Google Pay in India. He's excited about solving some challenging AI problems at scale. In prior life, he enjoyed designing, coding, and managing teams working in various aspects of computer networking. He fondly remembers the day when his startup, Sahasra Networks, was acquired by Cypress Semiconductors. He treasures the company of his BTech classmates from IIT Madras and master's friends from Stanford University. He enjoys playing chess, running, word puzzles, Sanskrit, and listening to Indian classical music. His co-founder and he enjoy nurturing their two startups, aged 17 and 14. I was reading this last sentence and I was like, which co-founder is he talking about? But welcome again, Anand. Super excited to have you here. Anand, so this is named Angel Bold Conversation. So we talk a lot about being bold. What does bold mean for you?
I think the way I see bold is every day we are trying to make choices, okay? And every choice comes with its risk-reward trade-offs, right? What I've often found is that there will be a big variance if you polled a bunch of people who have the right context on what is the amount of reward and what is the amount of risk. There'll be a range you will get, and people will be there in this big range. And if you're ready, even when you get this poll in this range, if you're ready to pick this high end of risk, saying that, maybe the reward is here or maybe it's here, whichever, but I'm ready to take this risk to go, then you're making a bold bet. And in that context, it has to work, right? Sometimes I feel bold steps are also where you go with high risk, you burn something, but your loss is fairly limited. Okay, I would have lost 2.5 months of my life and everything.
Bold, not stupid.
Yeah, bold, not stupid, exactly. So you need to want to work in the Pareto of doing bold, but it's not so crazy that you will give up your life or you'll do something silly, right? On the product thing, I can tell you in YouTube, right? I'm talking 2010. YouTube was taking off, okay? The videos were becoming very popular. Lots of people were watching videos. Our recommended videos was taking off, right? But what was happening is there were, and we were starting to show ads to the videos, right? And we were just being, very naive. So at that time, I launched a project called YouTube Content Ratings. It was considered very bold because basically we had to move a bunch of people. It was and we said that we will shut down this ads thing, right? For 2 months, we will not make any money on a whole bunch of things we want. And you should understand, some of these car ads or some product ads are very lucrative. And I said, in 2 months, we will build you a model and we will put an end to this thing. It could have blasted on our faces, right? That in 2 months, we didn't have a model and we were losing money. And they were like, okay, we can't turn this on as well, right? And I'm very proud of that project, which we did.
Cars have the highest CAC probably.
Yeah, this is like a huge opportunity. We did it. In 2 months, we turned on. There was still a few edge cases we were fixing, and then it got fixed. And I can tell you, the VP at that time, in a big public forum, they said that, we made one big bold move to turn off these things just because this guy said that he's ready to do this in 2 months, right?
Very cool.
And it was crazy bet.
In any culture, anywhere, one of the things that I have seen you do quite well is you have a set of rituals, you have a way of doing things, create a culture to create an environment that is conducive to results. For example, when you joined GPay, I remember you met everyone. Like, it's a large team, and he said, look, I'm joining, I'll meet for 10, and literally, was it 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was, he said, look, I'm going to meet every engineer that's in GPay. It's like you had that ritual. Or when you go to the mothership, you have these like 10, 15, I've looked at your calendar when you go to the mothership, it's like 15-minute meetings back to back where you meet a lot of people. What are some of the sort of other rituals or things that you think of to create like really good cultures, really good environment for people to be productive?
See, I'll say 3 small things here, okay? Again, probably most of you do this regularly. I have also learned these from some other, star, organizers like Shishir Mehrotra is someone you probably know, amazing guys who have fantastic rituals. I feel there are 3 things which are very important. One, it's very important to understand what is the pulse of perception that is going on in a community, right? So if my team is doing something, it is working with many other people, it's very important to get a pulse on what they think about this work, right? Both to inform them and to also see what they think. Okay, that is super important. Second is it's very important for my folks to be super motivated in what they're doing, right? So it's very important to understand exactly where are they seeing the problems. Where are they seeing excitement? Where are they seeing frustration? Unfortunately, all of this means talking a lot. Talking in one-on-one situations a lot, not in public situations, but having that psychological safety where they will open up. Which means that if you want someone to tell you those critical pieces of information, you need to open up for like a lot of other time before that piece of information comes. So you need to spend that time, right? And the third thing is, I think in teams which are super driven and which are getting productive, stress management is very, very important. Like you need to have a pulse very early on this stress. And I have found this to be true for myself. So one of the rituals which I do, both for my personal life and my professional life, I have a sheet it's called a stress log. So what I do is literally...
I'm finding out lots of your secrets that I've not known before. Stress logs.
So one of the things which I do is, like every week, whenever there is some event which caused me stress, it might be very, very small. It might be, I got an email which surprised me. Or I got a remark from someone which was negative about one of my teammates. I didn't expect at all, right? Or I was doing a review and then they were giving me some news, and then on poking around, I felt that there was sloppiness in something. And then I note the time, I note the activity. On a stress scale of 1 to 5, I just mark it, right? And then I leave a column where I will revisit it in some time to know when that stress subsided. Did I do something about it? Or generally, like most things, did time just subside, right? I do this both on my personal side and on my professional side. Personal side could be many things, me and my wife disagreed on something, or my daughter did something which I didn't think she should do, or any number of things, right? And what I've always found is, like 2 months later, I go back to things which happened 2 months before, and I go back, there are so many learnings there. And most of the time it is like, that is just so unbelievably stupid to be stressed about. That's a very common thing. Why did I stress about that? I mean, that's like almost irrelevant. It's a vanishing specter, right? But there are things which I've learned that, okay, this one I stressed about because I screwed up. I should have gotten better information, and this stress means I was not doing my job well, right? So stress is one of the rituals, is one thing which I care about. Time management, again, I have like most of my meetings are categorized in various ways, and my admin every month tells me where is my time going. And I enforce that in a week, if I'm spending 60 hours, like 30 hours should be unscheduled. So I have enough time for reading, thinking, and these. But the thing which I really, really care about is my team motivated? Are they hitting any roadblocks I should be removing? And for this, I need to talk to a lot of people to get this data, because otherwise the data is coming later, which is why I spend a lot of time trying to talk to people. It might be small micro interactions, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but those are golden.
Interesting. No, that's pretty cool. In fact, one of the things that I have realized over a period of time, especially for leaders, 2 things I feel are really critical is managing your energy and managing your emotions, right? Just how you manage them. And a lot of, when you manage your energy and emotion, collaboration becomes easier. Some of this becomes easier. But what are some of the sort of other, direct tips to do better collaboration? And also, when you collaborate, like you said, somebody said something, you get unhappy. How do you manage your emotion? Like you said, stress log, fine. Stress log is just discovering and saying, oh, this was the stress, this happened. But in the moment, somebody says something, how do you manage your emotion? And then that's sort of connected to how you collaborate with each other, perhaps.
Yeah, over the time, right, what I've found is, if you trust that person, right, the amount of stress that interaction gave is always lesser, because you're betting on this person for the longer term. So this stress is probably more consequential. Maybe information was not shared properly. Maybe there was some miscommunication, right? Those things I always find to be much easier to handle. The harder stress is that when I see patterns where the same person or a similar situation, that is when I say that, okay, I need to act. Like, this stress cannot keep repeating itself. Obviously managing people is one of the harder things which we do, right? Managing meetings or time or stress or even, money is so much easier than people because their lives are entwined with yours and this thing. I think I've gotten good over the years. To be candid, I think you probably do this much better than me. I have seen how you have reacted in reviews in many other areas. It's a work in progress. I mean, I've certainly checked myself from exploding many times. How do you implode and not explode is an art. And how do you do controlled implosion?
Implosion, I guess.
I mean, it's one of the hardest problems in nuclear fusion, in case there are people who are interested right now in engineering problems. I mean, the big energy challenges we are having in life today are literally because we have not been able to figure out
cold fusion?
Controlled nuclear fusion. I think at someday, I hope, in our lives, while we are living, we'll solve that. But anyway, that's an aside.
Okay.
But the implosion part, yeah. I think collaboration-wise, yeah, I feel talking to people more often is very important. Having candid discussions is very important. I find that psychological safety is built to the maximum in smaller conversations, right? Where you candidly discuss some things and you ask people about their opinions on some things. For example, asking someone about, hey, there was this post by Andrish Karpathy on this thing. Like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about agents? Or Sam Altman was talking on this thing, right? I mean, that builds that thing that, okay, see, I find stress is always controllable if both of us have the same goals and the same values, we can differ on the ways, we can differ on the way we express ourselves, all those. That will be much reduced stress. If we differ on our goals and values, that's a much higher thing to meet. I mean, that'll be harder to bridge, right? So, and it's easier to build those things if you have these touch points where you ask people this thing. So many people question me, but I'm also questioning people a lot.
Talking about trust, I think trust and collaboration, very important. No, I remember when I was there, so I had this philosophy of saying trust but verify. I still have that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but you said, hey, your verify loop is a little bit too tight, right? It keeps running too hard. How do you and I never actually came back to you and said, how do I reduce my verify loop? But how do you trust people, yet verify, and be comfortable saying, look, I'm trusting someone, but yet I'm relying on them, yet I'm sure that I have some controls in place to get it right. Yeah,
there are two things I'll tell you that this trust by verify loop, but I do the same thing, by the way. I do trust by verify things. People expect signaling all the time. They expect private signaling, they expect public signaling, right? So it's very important for people to see that I trust them in public. It's very, very important. So if they give me some piece of information in a review, or if they express some opinion in this thing, right? If I concur, and I'm brutally honest, so I can never fake trust this thing, right?
We know that part.
So it's very important for me. But when I feel that someone is aligning well with me, right, I make it a point to express that clearly. And I need to, it's almost like a neural network. You increase the weights of trust, and then you decrease the weights of verify, and then you adjust to a point where you reach
you don't change your activation functions.
you just need to adjust. But what is true is that I've also sensed that some people are very sensitive to even a mild amount of verification, even when you trust them a lot. So for them, I have to tweak the verification to be more in private than in public. They get very sensitive if you verify them in public.
It's a good point. I fail at that actually.
Yeah, you're much better off doing the verification in private. Because you do want that verification loop. You want to tell them that, I don't entirely believe this thing about it, but I'll do this in private than public. That private-public thing, if you can manage well, then I think these loops are okay. I mean, people don't get stressed as much.
Got it. So talking about humans, there's a lot of noise about AI replacing humans. Now, perhaps we are still in the hype cycle and the hype will subside and real things will happen. But where is AI really right now? Like where do you, and where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, see, one of the things people need to understand is, like even human intelligence now, right? We're doing some amount of retrieval. Like he has some questions prepared, I have some things prepared. But there is a lot of what is called inference time intelligence. Inference time is right now, there is a lot of intelligence that is going on both in his body and my body, which is I'm collecting information which I've stored.
Talk about yourself.
I'm synthesizing, I'm composing things, and I'm trying to emit a bunch of tokens for all of you to consume, right? What has happened till now is, like if you dial back to search, there is tremendous amount of storage. I mean, everyone knows that with machines, storage and computation is sort of given, and they are far, far ahead of humans, and distributed systems taking off means they have almost limitless amount, right? So, I mean, there is no way we will have that much amount of, knowledge. So retrieval, that thing is like very much a solved problem. Now, real-time information matters. Is information reliable matters? How much it is synthetic? How much it is fake? All of this matters. All this tagging, all of this matters. But that is like information storage. Then you start working on this information to extract knowledge. So even that, I think there's been a lot of work going on. Like today, in fact, I would say, for example, I mean, I do something with my daughters. Every once in a while, I'll do 15-minute learn jam. So basically, both of us, she opens up a laptop, I open my laptop, we open up a Gemini session, a ChatGPT session, and hey, what did you talk about school? In school, okay, we heard about Taylor Swift. Okay, let's ask. What is new about Taylor Swift? Right? And then we'll sort of ask questions, go away here, there, and then like she will see how I ask questions and I'll see how I ask, hey, do you really believe this or not, right? But what ends up happening in this thing is that now you're starting to extract knowledge from information. Like there's a lot of information around, but you're starting to extract knowledge, which you can work with, which you are internalizing, right? One of the books which I highly recommend, I think I may have mentioned to you about this thing, is a book called Peak by Anders Ericsson. I highly recommend if people have not. In that he talks about, one of the things which leads to high performance from people is how they store information internally and what amount of deliberate practice have they applied to get better at their craft, right? So just storing information is a huge thing. So what they have found is there are violinists, right, who practice a lot, right? But someone who improvises, the way they have stored information in their minds on the exact swaras which come, how you form these things, right? They've gotten better at it because they've somehow stored it differently. It's not just the amount of hours.
Is that like same thing with chess as well, perhaps?
Yeah, chess, exactly. The way, I mean, you look at how Carlsen looks at a board and forms patterns, right? It's different the way he's stored in this thing. So it's not just the amount of hours.
We are
it's also
we are a
technique.
Gokesh fan, by the way.
Oh, is that? Okay, that's fine. Gokesh is fine too. But I'm just saying that the information storage and thing matters, right? So where I was going with this is AI has gotten to a point where we know how to get a lot of data, we know how to extract information, we know how to store it, right? Now we have started being a lot of good progress in thinking. Today, when many of you use any of these tools, you can see the thinking trace. Like you can say, okay, tell me, I'm very interested in museums. I want to go to Chandigarh for 3 days. Tell me how I should plan it. It'll go through methodically and it'll tell you exactly how it'll do. You can look at the thinking trace and it'll be pretty much close to what the two of us would do, right? If we had a lot of data. Now what is happening is, beyond this thinking, how are we going to take this forward in areas like agents? Can it understand specific interfaces? What are the types of things I need to do to either look at an investment or to make a new investment, right? Here is how a restaurant app works. How do I understand menus? What are the ingredients? All of these, right? So agent work is taking off now. The other thing which is taking off is, of course, robotics. We feel that in the bits and bytes, we've had a lot of progress in intelligence, but in atoms, still intelligence is quite weak. I mean, all of you probably have seen Boston Dynamics, this dog going around.
There's one in IPL, right?
That's right, IPL things, right? But it's still, I mean, if you look at it, it just feels pathetically poor, right? It's not at the point where it's exciting, right? But then you look at something like, say, Waymo self-driving cars. Now you're getting somewhere where actual public utility is coming from these, right?
You talked about thinking.
Yeah.
Like I am a very sort of simplistic explanation of LLMs is that some people will say, hey, it's like a lossless compression or good way of doing compression. Sometimes people will say, hey, it's a token generator. But when you say thinking, like, is that still LLM realm or it's going somewhere else?
So what is happening is it's certainly a little beyond LLM alone, right? So there is this concept called chain of thought. Some of you may have heard about it, which is core to thinking. So today, if I ask you, like, okay, tell me, how would you prepare for your board meeting? You have some things in your mind. Okay, these are all the types of data I need. These are the kinds of questions I should be prepared for. These are the things I need to highlight. So now the thinking which you have gone about, right? Now this is in this context, and then you look at, say, some other context that, okay, you need to teach your daughter calculus. What will you do? You will do very similar things. You'll say, okay, what are the types of data I need? What are the concepts which are there within this? How do I explain this to her? How do I answer questions from her, right? So even when you look at thinking fundamentally, right, from data, there are some steps you go. And these chains of thought, right, you learn from it and then you apply it to lots of things. It is a technology beyond just tokens, but it has quite a bit it has learned from language. Right? That has a big role to play. But I will tell you, thinking right now, I mean, I would encourage all of you, like as you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, right? Look at the thinking traces. It'll seem remarkably human. You will start seeing that, okay, you know what, this is probably intelligence.
Of course, you're using Gemini. I'm sure you get to use Gemini Ultra or whatnot.
Yes.
How do we get to use
More
Gemini
tokens.
Ultra?
This is the holy grail, right? How do we keep reducing the cost of these tokens, right? I mean, that's the mad
Actually,
scramble
yesterday,
everyone.
in fact, Rohit was showing me, I don't think Rohit is there, but Rohit was showing me a demo. He runs our data and AI organization. And he said, hey, here's the demo. And he started it and it won't work. He's like, oh, damn, I ran out of tokens. And then we had to go to my Gemini Pro and extract some tokens out of it. Yeah, so there is...
No, it is certainly, I can tell you that inside Google, there's a lot of stress about how do we keep reducing the cost per tokens? How do we increase the level of thinking you can do with this token budget?
About like organization and use of AI inside, right? In general, the paradox is that when a new technology comes along, we like it, we talk about it a lot, but we are stuck to our old ways of doing. There is inertia in changing what we do. Now, looking at organization like Angel or any other organization, what are the kinds of things we can do to increase AI adoption? Because it's not going to show us results right away. It's sort of on a lower S-curve.
Yeah.
What kinds of things can all of us do to increase that adoption?
I mean, one is very simple. I mean, you should just measure how often are you folks using the AI tools. You're using in your flow, you go separately, you look up information, you understand things better, all of these things, right? For example, in my teams, we do survey of how much people are using. In fact, now we've gotten so aggressive that every week I have a use case session where people should come and share what are all the use cases they used the tools for. Where is it shining, where is it not shining? Audio, video, image, in image generation, what is going on, all of these, right? And what is amazing is we obviously are trying to see where can we improve the models. But what's also interesting is many people are like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. Okay, I'm going to try. So this serendipity will happen much more as more of that is socialized, right? So you should surely measure how much of the tools are being used. Second is, I do think there is value in being critical about measuring the core metrics itself, that how fast are you able to go? How fast are you able to build? How much of your code is generated? How much are you regressing? How much are you catching bugs before they hit production? How much are you able to fix the bugs using the tools, right? So we literally are on a warpath there, trying to measure every one of these to see whether the organization is becoming more effective.
And you're not worried about what results in the end happen. You're saying, look, I'm just looking at the use of AI itself. Am I getting better?
At this point, we are still the final gatekeeper is ending up being a human. But I do think once you push the humans to use more of these tools, right, they will both see the gaps the tools have and it'll get socialized more. More and more people will see the value of it.
Of course, we do a ton of work. We have a lot of things that we are balancing all the time. I found you pretty good at actually, in fact, being balanced about balancing things. But we've got our careers, we've got family, we've got our hobbies, we want to exercise, sleep, all of these things are competing priorities. You've got your own, you've got Sanskrit and you run and you've got a DeepMind organization there. You've got 2 daughters. you've got other family responsibilities. You're a site lead for Google. By the way, beautiful building he's built. If you ever, or been part of building it, as if you, the Ananta building. How do you prioritize? How do you bring it all together?
Yeah, time management is one thing, but I think very early on, AK, I realized I was really good at compartmentalization. I can tell you I've had very stressful weeks. Like there's a massive change at work where a project was cancelled and things, something which I put on. I do think the work which I do in prioritization helps me a lot. Like every Sunday night and Monday morning, I tell like what are the 3 things I really want to get done this week. And I stick to it brutally. I do this both on my personal side and my professional side. I went a little overboard a few years before on my personal side, where I started doing, individual OKRs and family OKRs, which I don't recommend. It was a little stressful.
Anand cooks wonderful food, by the way.
it is not. I realized that, the OKR world is harsh on the professional side or on the personal side. So I abandoned that. But I do think I try to organize things such that I can keep them in compartments where I can both measure what progress that is going on there, and I limit how much tokens I give to it, so to say.
But you can compartmentalize it personally.
I've gotten better and better at it.
So we have some questions from folks. This is from Rohit Verma, saying, what role do product managers play in shaping data set strategy, especially for minimizing bias and ensuring generalizability in models?
Yeah, so this is actually a very, very good question. And it's probably not just applicable for PMs, it's certainly more applicable for PMs. In Google at least, right, I find product managers to be the eyes and ears of both the product and the org, right? They do a tremendous job internally in making sure the org is supporting this effort very well. And they do a tremendous job externally to make sure that we are building the right product, right? So literally they are the eyes and ears of the thing, and which means that they need to be really good at 2 things. One, they need to be very good at being a good representation of what they are seeing, right? And second, they need to be really good at getting information, real-time information of this thing. It shouldn't be a lagged information, because if there's a lag, then you already suffer. The morale suffers, the product is late, the PMF doesn't happen, all these things happen, right? So I feel anything the PMs can do to get a wider representative data and a more real-time data. These 2 things, if you do really well, right? It could be, again, like AK was saying, by the way, quick plug-in for Paul Graham, who is one of the founders of Y Combinator. He wrote this beautiful article on do things which are not scalable. And that was one of the things which I took from when I joined. I met about 220 people because I wanted to literally just get the core information from every one of them, right? And PMs in particular, I think, can do really well. See, sometimes PMs tend to aggregate, summarize, because it's easier, right? But you want to sometimes do those unscalable things because you want to get those outliers, and those outliers have value, right? Just getting the peak, the most common thing is one thing, but those outliers it gives you both people who are very frustrated with the product and people who are power users of the product. So I feel PMs, like if this was a normal distribution, they should not only live here. They should live a bit here and here, which means that you need to collect data here and here often.
The next question is from Abhishek Kaushal. He asks how to balance exploratory research with delivering concrete product outcomes, especially at the interface of AI and user needs.
Yeah, this is very, very hard. I mean, there's really no formula for this. At Google, we struggle with this all the time. We have some people pursuing research. Okay, is it good enough to go here in this thing? I mean, I've been always interested in innovation. There are some wonderful books on innovation. But the only thing which I've learned about innovation is there are 2 things which need to happen for innovation to happen. Okay? One, you need to create an environment with the right people and the right processes where people can try things and they can fail. And the mantra is either we succeed or we learn. Right? We don't go and vilify the people who failed. Right? So that is one thing about the environment. And the second thing is you just need to try a lot of things. There is no genius out there who can tell you that this will succeed surely. Okay? You can look at histories of all the people. Like you could look at Sam Altman, Demis, all these people, right? Demis started Elixir Labs, failure. But now look how much DeepMind took off. Sam Altman started Looped, didn't do much. and then now OpenAI has taken. So you just need to try a lot. But if you have a culture where you can try, you can first of all have people who are, have risk appetite. And second, you can get feedback quickly from trying things and decide brutally. No, you know what, this one I'm going to shut this one I'm going to go on for longer, right? If you take something like quantum, right? It's an exploration we've been doing for like more than a decade. In fact, Microsoft has been doing it for 2 decades. Right? Does it even make sense to continue this thing? Is a valid question which will come up, right? But my only thing is that create an environment where this type of risk can be taken and just try a number of things. There is just no way you know what will fly and what won't fly.
Interesting. Talking of fly, Angry Birds.
Yes.
Do you guys know Angry Birds is like one of those games now not so popular but quite popular in its own time. There's a company called Rovi that made that game, and it reminded me that was the 53rd game
yes.
they had done. People don't know the first 52 games that they had done. 53rd game, and I don't think the first 52 were anywhere as close. When the invention of wheel happened or when industrial revolution happened, do you think there was this kind of sort of apprehension or concern around like what will happen suddenly machines will take over? Like I'm just thinking like because suddenly like you got automobile or I don't know if people were thinking the same way.
Yeah, I don't know how they've reacted to it. I mean, if you take an example, right, today in urban settings, right, there are still very few people who take a bunch of fiber, right, and they dip it in a bucket of water and they keep whacking at this place a lot of time for this dirt to go off. I mean, this used to be the technology for cleaning clothes, right? Today,
that's
because we found something, what is that?
Dhobi Ghat.
Dhobi Ghat. But today there's technology which takes this thing, you put this chemical, it goes, it saponifies with this dirt, removes it, and it tumbles, right? Now, do we feel like weaker because there is this machine which can do this? I don't think so. And if you ask even a washerman or a washerwoman, I think they'll be like, no. It's not like I was born and I really wanted to be a washerman. I really wanted to take a piece of cloth and keep whacking. I feel the way we evolve also has changed.
Our thinking, actually, I'm assuming when AGI, SGI is there, our thinking will be very different.
Will probably be different. I don't think we'll look at us and say, Array, I'm not doing 2 plus 5 now, the machine is doing. I don't think we'll do that. I think we'll be like, it is so dumb for us to be doing it in the first place.
One last question from me.
I think it'll change.
What is one piece of advice that you'll give working professionals to succeed in today's world? Yeah,
so this is something I think long and hard. It's very, very hard to know what will be interesting in society even 10 years, 20 years from now, right? But when you go and look at these AI agents, right, like why is it interesting now? Why wasn't it interesting 20 years before, right? At the core of all of these is learning, right? Even in companies, you will find there are some people who somehow are more productive, who somehow have more agency, who somehow know the right person to talk to, who somehow know the right documents to read, who somehow are able to read a 6-pager and are able to quickly summarize quick. How? Because they have become somehow very good learning machines. They know what are the skills needed to thrive in professional environments. And I feel the best thing as professionals we can do is we can keep looking at what we are doing and we can keep saying, okay, where do I need to learn to get better at something which is important for me? I can tell you that I used to be very, very poor at public speaking. I still am poor, but I've gotten better over time because I could learn the key things which were needed for it. And I feel this is the most important thing for professionals. If you can find what are the things which matter for your work and what can I learn to get better at it, either using tools or doing your own learning, whatever it means, right? But you should be brutally frank about where you are in it and how you're getting better at it. And some people are very self-aware, they know where they are, and people who are not should get like a mentor or a coach who can, do better at assessing that.
So, right? So learning and actually...
and I think if you can find a way to be agile learner, and you have to be very honest about it, like there are people who try, but they're not improving on some things, then find some other things which you can learn. But if you can find ways where you can learn and get better, I think that is the way. I mean, that is the only way to embrace change.
That's interesting, because when I was going for, I never was able to complete a PhD, but when I was going for my PhD, I asked my thesis supervisor actually asked me in IIT Kanpur, Professor Karnik, who was the HOD at that time in CS, he said, okay, do you know what are you going to do in your PhD? I said, yes, I'm going to specialize in computer science. He said, what inside that? I said, computer networking. He said, inside computer networking, what will you do? I said, quality of service. What will you do inside quality of service? I said, diff serve or something around that. And he said, you're stupid. He said, PhD is Doctor of Philosophy. It isn't about specializing. It is about learning how to do research. And I think this whole thing of being able to learn how to do certain things, being able to learn how to identify is, I think, a phenomenal advice and a phenomenal way to end this session. Thank you so much for coming down. I enjoyed the conversation quite a bit. We've not... Clearly, thank you. I think everybody else did as well. And, I've not talked to you for not met you for 4 or 5 months, and I feel like I've really missed it. Hopefully we get to have you here again and chat some more once, more things have arrived and maybe AGI has arrived and we can see how people are thinking what the social order is.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.